Hey YouTube, Darstacker here. I'm doing an interview with Vertical, the stacker, the attorney at law, the avid outdoorsman, and I guess you could probably call him a conservationalist. Is that true?
To a certain extent, yes. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, anytime. Happy to be part of the community and think what you're doing is a great thing.
Thanks, buddy. So you were already on the short list of people I wanted to interview, but what really bumped you up the the priority list, I guess you could say, is the origin story video that you did a little bit ago, and I will put a link to that video here. If you could just give us like a brief overview of what that was like.
And that was the How I Got This Way video, I think.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I'd talked to a few different people on YouTube, and I had mentioned in an email to one of them that one of these days I just have to write down a little bit about who I am and how I got to be where I am today. And that particular YouTube user said, I would really like to watch that video. So that piqued my interest in actually doing it. And so I thought, maybe it will inspire others to, work their way up from the bottom, so to speak. I think that's one thing in our community that we miss out on sometimes, well, in society at large, and that is, kids want to have what their parents have right now, and sometimes it's hard to get the vision of having to work your way up the ladder. And so that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to share that, is so people can see that you can work your way up from a very low minimum wage job and turn it into a pretty nice career. Certainly there's some obviously hard work involved. There's a little luck involved sometimes, but I think the American dream is still out there. And that's one of the reasons why I posted that, is because I think I am the poster child to a certain extent of reaching that American dream, coming from the bottom. And not that I'm on top, but I'm comfortable. I have a good life, good family, and we are, right where we want to be.
Yeah, that story was very inspirational. So you just give us a few tidbits of a little tease.
Well, one of the things that I've always believed in, and this is one of the work ethic issues that I learned from my parents, and that is, do a full day's work for a full day's pay, regardless of the wage. You might think you're not being paid enough, but that doesn't mean you don't have to do the full day's work. And then make sure you show up on time each and every day. Employers appreciate those who are timely, appreciate those who are diligent in their efforts at work and so forth. And so I employed that early on in my career, and I made darn sure that I was never late to work. And I didn't call in sick. I would still show up to work, and I'd make them send me home. I thought that was always important, and the employers ultimately, I think, respected that work ethic a lot, and ultimately, helped me climb the ladder. I started as a runner at a law firm, making $6 an hour. Previously, I'd worked for Micron Technology, and I was a janitor and a floor guy over there, and it just wasn't a good lifestyle for me. So I said, I've got to find something else. And then met a buddy of mine at Costco, and he said, hey, why don't you go over and and sign up here at my law firm and see if they want to hire you on. And so I did that. I started as a runner, and every few months the owner would just come up to me and say, you're better than what you're doing. You're better than what you're doing. And he would just keep bumping me up with more opportunity and more responsibility, up until such a time as, I was basically the top position in the firm, not a lawyer. And so he said, I really can't pay any more money, but what I'd like to do is invite you to go to law school so that you can come back and work for me, and I can pay you more money. And that was an interesting scenario, because where I lived at the time, it means I would have had to uproot my family and travel 5 or 6 hours away, and that wasn't super exciting to me. Plus the thought of, taking out student loans and all that. But then he says, well, no. Believe me, it's going to be worth doing it, because I'm going to pay for it.
Wow.
And yeah, what a blessing that was in my life, because it took all of that financial, pressure, decision-making aspect away immediately. And then not only did he pay for the law school, but he paid my salary the whole time I was gone. So just a phenomenal guy and a phenomenal opportunity that, of course, as you know, and the community knows now, I seized upon.
Yeah, that's a great story, very inspirational, and it just demonstrates to, like, I can't think of a story that demonstrates it more, that with a good work ethic, keep showing up, good things will happen to you. And if you're a hockey fan, um, Mickey Redmond has the saying, "You got to be good to be lucky, and lucky to be good."
Yeah, yeah, that's a good saying.
Yeah,
One thing that I think a lot of people probably shake their heads on is that, well, I've done that. I've been in that minimum wage job, and I never had such an opportunity, or my employer didn't appreciate me, or so forth. Obviously, it's not going to happen in every case, but I do think you owe your employer, your full efforts while the employer is paying you. And if you believe you're worth more, and the employer's not seeing your worth, and you're not meeting eye to eye there, then go someplace else. Find something else or somewhere else that will appreciate your talents and your abilities, and do what you have to do to make yourself more valuable to whatever employer you have. I would just suggest that we can't be stagnant. We can't be complacent with where we're at. Always see what you can do to make your employer more money, or to make yourself more valuable to your employer, and give him or her more time off, or whatever it is. And a good employer is going to recognize that and treat you accordingly.
right. Yeah, I have a similar mantra. It's do you want to be an asset or a liability?
Yeah, no question. And liabilities hop jobs like crazy, right?
Right, right, exactly. And if you're an asset, then your bosses should recognize that, want to keep you around, and they
Yeah.
might be have a be a little hamstrung by like a union contract, or a set scale that's set in stone or something like that. But there's always something extra that they can do for you. So if you're an asset to your company, they're going to make sure you stick around.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be crazy not to, right? If
Right.
you are making their life easier and you are making them profitable, why on earth would they want to cut you loose? It
Yep.
just That doesn't make any financial sense whatsoever.
So how did you get into stacking?
Well, I started coin collecting when I was pretty young. I was into coin collecting and baseball cards. My dad would take me into shops around town, and he would help me pick out a silver quarter there, or a $50 there, or even a Morgan or whatever. I didn't have much, but I always remembered there was something different about the silver. Obviously, because it's different than the clad stuff, but it looked cool to me. It was just a feeling that I had, that I really, really enjoyed collecting this stuff. And then I got more into baseball cards, and then when that died in the 90s, when they started mass producing 10 million of each card or whatever, I started stacking in early 2000. I think the price of silver was like $7 an ounce or something like that, and I'd just buy 10-ounce bars, and then the price would go up, and I'd start flipping those, and did pretty well with that. So in hindsight, of course, I wish I would have bought a whole lot more silver bars and just kept them. But you live and learn, right? That's the nature of the beast.
Right.
And so that's about the year 2000 or so is when I started getting into stacking. And at that time, I was more of a stacker flipper. And then probably more in the last 5 or 6 years, I've been really heavy duty into stacking. I started stacking gold probably in 2010, and then more silver in the last 5 or 6 years.
Hmm. So can I stereotype you for a bit? You're a bow hunter and outdoorsman. I'm going to assume that you do a little bit of prepping.
I do. We have significant prepping reserves around our area. Personally, we have different properties where we store goods and ammo and things like that. Yeah, I'm not a fatalist. I'm not a doomsday guy, but I'm a prepared guy, and my family's prepared. We don't go out and practice maneuvers and that kind of stuff, but we go to the we go to the shooting range once in a while, and we make sure our skills are honed. But more importantly, we make sure we have good sources of food and clean water, and adequate filtration, and places to store such.
Do you go so far as to have like the dry food stores?
I do. We have actually a 2-year supply for our family. We're a family of 6, and the type of freeze-dried stuff that I have is the Mountain House brand. And so we basically have a 2-year supply sufficient to feed 6 of us daily for 2 years. I chose to buy that all at once a number of years ago rather than do the rotation thing. I can't stand trying to rotate food. It ends up going bad, or I just don't get around to doing it. Maybe because in certain aspects I'm lazy that way. I'd rather just buy it all and store it. And then if it goes bad in 30 or 40 years, I'll just buy it again and store it again. But I guess, I see the expiration date on some of these Mountain House meals, and it's like 30 years. And I guess I think if it's good for 30 years, it's probably good for 31 years. If it's good for 31 years, it's probably good for 32 years. So I'm not too terribly worried about the longevity of those things.
Tell us what those meals are like. Are they like TV meals, freeze dried stuff like
Yeah.
MREs?
Yeah, it's freeze dried. Each pouch only weighs, maybe 3 to 5 ounces, depending on what type of meal you get. And I will say it is important to try them. When you're hungry, there's that saying, you'll eat anything. My kids won't. They'll starve before they eat certain of those freeze dried meals. So, it's important to try them, see which ones you like. Basically, you just boil water and add the water in there. It's either 1 1/3 cups or 2 cups or 1 3/4, whatever it calls for. Seal it up for 5 minutes. You open it back up. You stir the water around in there again. Let it sit about another 4 minutes, and so roughly in 9 minutes you've got a meal. And most of them come in 2 portion packages, so each package is enough to feed 2 people. And I found that that's true. I think you can make a fairly hearty meal out of one of those packages for 2 people, and they're actually pretty good. They're high in carbs and they're high in sodium, but if you're in survival mode, you're going to do what you got to do, and they'll help you survive. You might have a kidney stone sooner or later, but just drink lots of water, I guess.
Yeah. So in your stacking, if you were forced to pick gold or silver, you can only buy one for the rest of your life. Which one would you pick and why?
I would still buy gold, and I think it's because gold, to a certain extent, silver has too, but gold has just been used and more recognized as a medium of exchange over the years. If you look at all of the Egyptian stuff, maybe they don't focus on the silver, but it seems like everything they find is gold. All of the coinage and that, I shouldn't say all, but most of the coinage and things that you see in museums or on some of those National Geographic specials in antiquities shops and things like that, it seems like they're mostly gold. So I think gold just has a more recognizable form of trade and value than silver does. My opinion, I'm sure there's contrary opinions out there. Silver is certainly easier to procure, but I would argue that it takes a lot more space to store your stack of silver when you compare the value of a similar value of gold. 2 ounces of gold is worth how many ounces of silver? My goodness. And where are you going to put all that stuff?
Yeah, the GSR now is what, 94?
Yeah, it's fallen a little bit, which is interesting to see.
Yeah.
But it's still, I look at my stack now, and I've got ammo cans and other drawers and things like that full of silver, and these cans weigh like 70 pounds. It's ridiculous. And they're
Not
just like,
exactly conducive to a bug out.
yeah, exactly, and they're literally just like my ammo. I have 9mm or 223 rounds in ammo cans, and it's tough for this skinny guy to even carry those things sometimes without pulling my arms out of my sockets. So I either got to get stronger or I got to figure out a better way to store this stuff.
So what's your favorite thing to stack?
I really, it's hard to say. I really like the gold eagles. I like the gold sovereigns. I don't know if I have any one particular favorite, although I am a bit of a Star Wars junkie, so I'm kind of a sucker for anything Star Wars. I'll be putting out another video actually later this week about some Star Wars related stuff that I think people will find very interesting. But gold or silver Star Wars stuff, really, I'm a sucker for, and I'll pay pretty good premiums for that. But as far as the traditional coinage, I would say, the buffalo is probably my favorite one of all the gold coinage, and then the eagle, and then probably the maple and Krugerrands. But if I had to just pick one, it would probably be the buffalo.
Hmm. How about pre-33 gold?
Pre-33 gold, I have some. I don't have a lot. I might have, I don't know, 20 or 30 pieces. I do like it. It's just, to me, it's harder to find in really, really good condition, and I don't want to generally pay the premiums for that, because it's at that point it becomes more numismatic than actual just the weight value. So I have some pieces, but most of them are, just old worn pieces. Some of them might be the extra fine type of grade, XF45 or whatever, but I don't think I have any BUs or even AUs of the pre-33. I won't turn my nose up at it. If I can get it at a good deal, I'll buy it, obviously.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my recent videos, I showed a significant amount of pre-33 that I was prepared to buy. I think the gentleman that ended up buying it dropped about 60-some thousand on it. And I'm sure he turned around and probably made 20 or 30,000 on that deal, because they were all graded, slabbed, absolutely beautiful coins. But by the time I got to the LCS, he was already sitting down at the counter, and my heart sank, because I probably would have pulled the trigger as well.
Yeah, heck yeah. So your channel is very diverse, and it shows your outdoorsmanship, the bow hunting. Like I was just telling you, I was watching your video about the Frank Church River No Return that
Oh,
you
sure.
did. Yeah, that was a great video. Not to mention all the stacking, how we follow you in your stacking journey. What made you start your channel?
Just to engage with the community. I was watching YouTube videos for some time before I started my channel, and I thought it was a little fascinating to see the interactions of the community. It was really intriguing to me. And so I thought, well, what the heck? I have the time to do it, and it's a great way to meet people and to socialize and to learn, quite frankly. And so I've learned a lot from the community and the different stackers out there. We don't, as you know, by looking at posts and looking at the different videos that are uploaded to YouTube, we don't always agree on everything, but for the most part, we have a lot to learn from each other, and we have a lot to provide to the community. And so I thought, if there's a little bit that I can provide, I'm happy to do so. And in the meantime, I know I'm going to learn a lot more than I'll ever provide. So that's probably the biggest reason, is just to learn and have fun socializing in that community. And plus, it's probably just the coolest community on YouTube. I can't imagine being part of a gaming community or something like that. That has absolutely zero interest in my mind. I'd rather, be involved in either hunting, fishing, or coin collecting, stacking, metal detecting type communities. And here in this particular community, I found a variety of all of that interests me.
Yeah, I think I've said it in every single one of my videos. The silver stacking community on YouTube is the most supportive and generous community I've ever been a part of.
Oh, I agree, hands down. And not that I've seen a whole lot of other communities, but I just can't, I don't know. I can't imagine going to a drone flying community, for example, and they're going to give away a half ounce of gold, right? I mean, just
Right.
you just don't see that stuff in other communities. They might do, giveaways of different types of things, but one of the things that we, quite frequently see, Darth, is when we go into an auction site, for example, and there will be, 50 or 60 people in that auction, and somebody will buy a coin and then say, hey, give it to so-and-so. And they
Yeah.
just spent $80 on the thing,
Right. Yep.
Uh,
I'll never
who
forget the
does
first
that?
time I saw that. It just blew my mind. I thought those guys must be like super tight. Like, no, they're just casual friends online, and
Yeah.
they just saw that somebody was interested in something, and they stopped bidding, and I could afford to buy it, so just send it to him. Like, That just blew
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah, it cracks me up. In fact, one of the stories really quick, I think it was MRT stacking. Um, he and I were bidding against each other on something that he ultimately won, and then he gifted it to me. I just thought that was hilarious. But he's a great guy. MRC stacking. I tell you what. I don't mean to plug any one channel on this, but I really appreciated him, and that was just one memorable thing that happened in one of the auction sites. It was pretty funny.
You could have just bowed out to like $50 ago and let you
I
take it,
could
but no, he's going to
could
pay
have said,
$50 extra just to gift it to you. That's awesome.
that's right. Sorry about that, MRT. Next time, if you're bidding, I'm just going to stop. Just in case.
So I do think that since you don't focus on just stacking or numismatics or whatever, do you think because you cover a wide variety of topics that it might hamstring your growth as a channel, or do you think as an asset?
It might, but I don't care. I mean, I really, I'm not looking at the numbers every day saying, oh, I've only got 15 more subs this week or whatever. It amazes me that I have as many subscribers as I do. Quite frankly, I don't even know where I'm at. It's a little over 2,000, I think, which I never thought that would ever happen. So I am who I am, and people are attracted to other people for whatever reason, the content of their channel. I even had people comment about my voice, which is weird, but that's okay. Comment both positive and negative about content. And at the end of the day, I am who I am. You are who you are. If I'm going to sub to Darth Stacker, there's a reason for that. It's because I enjoy your content. And if you choose to diversify and there's something in there I don't like, fine, I won't watch it. But I'll watch the other stuff you produce. So, if there's people out there that get turned off by the thought of me, shooting an elk with a bow or me going on a walk in the Frank Church wilderness, well, don't watch those videos. But, I think I'll have some other interesting videos on the stacking side of things that will keep your attention.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it was Stormy that was talking about how he did started out doing stacking, and then he just wanted to do some like comedy skits and some pop culture references, movie reviews and stuff like that. And he noticed his numbers like plummeting as he diversified. So it was a lesson learned for him. Like if he wanted to do more than one subject to open up more than one channel.
Right. And I probably would never post any actual hunting type videos where I would show, a kill shot or something like that on this particular channel. But I think what I show here is just a little example of who I am. That, I'm a lawyer, I'm a stacker, but I'm not the typical lawyer that most people think of. I don't think. I think I'm kind of an easygoing, outdoors, pretty conservative trial lawyer, and that kind of bucks the trend, quite frankly.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll edit this part out. But the few lawyers that I know, they see. I mean, you're the nicest one, I bet. Let's put it that way. What's your white whale? This is like a question that I'm debuting with you. Your white whale is in like the piece of collectible or stackable that you are gunning for, but you for whatever reason, availability or price, you just haven't been able to get it.
Yeah, that's a great question. You think about that. I don't think it's been any secret. Of course, I'm kind of a Star Wars junkie, as I mentioned earlier. That new Boba Fett gold 1 ounce coin. I think it's the New Way Mint. I tell you what, that that piece has been my white whale for some time, and thanks to E. Tuarte, yesterday I received a text that said that AppMex had them for sale. And so I immediately went from that text that he sent to me to their website, and I was able to pick one up. And I paid for it. I paid about $1,900 for it. Obviously more than the spot price of gold, but as I mentioned earlier, again, I'll pay premiums for Star Wars stuff. And so that's supposed to be here around June 9th. So I'm super excited to get that, because that's something that sold out very quickly. And I think it was just offered to dealers, maybe. I can't remember exactly why it sold out so quickly, but AppMex listed on there, and I snagged it immediately.
Oh,
So
good. Nice.
my whitetail was out there, but I just reeled it in.
Congrats on landing your white whale, or
Yeah.
at least you're really in at this point. You haven't quite landed it yet.
Yeah, exactly. Let's pray that the USPS doesn't screw it up. But yeah, now I got to think of another white whale after this one, because that really has been my focus, is just trying to find one. And the only one I found before this one was in Germany, and it was like $2,500. So I just saved myself $600.
Plus the shipping international.
Yeah, and just the risk of who knows.
Right. Yep.
Get that thing.
Do you do anything with crypto?
I don't. Many years ago, I started mining Bitcoin, just because I was curious about it and interested in it. And I very quickly realized that I did not have the computer capacity and all that it took to do that. And I don't think I understood it all that well, quite frankly. But the crypto just has been something that I've not really been interested in investing in. I don't know. I don't know why. I suppose if the government ended up going to cryptocurrency, then it would force my hand. But it's just not something that I feel comfortable trading in or investing in, or even dabbling in whatsoever.
Yeah, I think we're a ways away from it becoming mainstream, but it's
Well, it sure seems it's
intriguing.
there's a lot of price fluctuations in that stuff, and I see it getting flung around all over the place. But a lot of people accept it, as payment, which is interesting to me. But I'm just not there yet, where I have faith and confidence that that is something that's going to survive and be recognized, particularly in an what is it, SHTF situation.
Right. So have you how have I'm sure you have, but how have you encouraged your kids to get into stacking?
Boy, it's tough. These kids of mine, bless their hearts, they want to ride motorcycles and play tennis and play baseball and do everything but go to the coin shop. In fact, whenever I try to drag them to the coin shop, it's literally like pulling teeth. They would almost want to do anything but. And I'll get them, coins for Christmas or whatever, and it quickly gets set aside, and they go and grab the yo-yo or grab whatever else that they can, play with. And so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get them really interested or not. I think once they have a better understanding about money and what is real, then they will grasp the concept. But all of my kids are working currently, either at a retail store, or I have a son who mows lawns and does quite well. He also sells appliances, believe it or not.
Huh.
And he's only 15.
Wow.
And then I have an 11-year-old who also has a little lawn business of his. And so I've taught my kids early on not only the value of money, but the value of work. And it's interesting because the area we live in, there's not many kids that are working, and their parents kind of give them everything. And I just don't subscribe to that theory. I think kids need to earn stuff, not be handed everything. So mine, at least, are going to earn what they have. And hopefully, as they do so, I can convince them that, not only do you put some of that money towards college savings or whatever, but maybe put some of that into stacking. But so far, I have not been very successful. We'll see.
How did you get into bow hunting and outdoorsmanship? Is that a family thing?
It is. I took my first hunting trip when I was 4 years old. And, let me back up. My first fishing trip when I was 2, and it was actually in the Frank Church up at a place called Bear Valley Creek. And we used to go salmon fishing in there because you were able to salmon fish back then. You can't do that anymore, I think, unless you're a part of a Native American tribe. But and then I took my first hunting trip with my dad when I was 4, and I've just pretty much went with him every year until I was about 16, and then all of a sudden friends were a lot more important than parents, and so I started going with friends, and then I started realizing that sometimes friends weren't reliable, and so I just go by myself. And once I started having a family, then my wife would go with me, my kids would go with me, and now it's pretty much something that we just do as family. But every once in a while we'll drag a friend along, or someone will call me and say, hey, where do I go? What do I do? And that's one of the things I love doing, is helping people in their hunting or fishing endeavors, kind of like a guide would do. I really enjoy that a lot, helping other people be successful.
Well, I certainly enjoy the your videos of trips through the nature, through the woods.
Oh, I appreciate that.
What do you got planned for the future for your channel, for your stacking? What do you got
Well, I
planned?
think I'll do, more of the same. The people that like the content are going to continue to watch, and the people that don't will move on, and that's fine. But I may do more outdoor type productions, high desert productions. I really enjoy the Owyhee wilderness areas and the Frank Church wilderness areas. Idaho has such a diverse landscape. We have, I think, 14,000-foot peaks at Mount Bora, down to, Battle Creek, Owyhee River canyons out in the desert, where it's, 800, 900,000-foot deep canyons with bighorn sheep running around. So, I mean, there's just such an amazing ecosystem and landscape around Idaho that I like to explore it all the time. I'm always finding something new. I'm going to new places and exploring, because there's still some places I haven't been in this state, believe it or not, even though I've lived here for almost 50 years. So probably more of that, and I'll mix in elements of stacking. Maybe I'll just start taking some gold or silver coins with me on these adventures, and flip it in my hand or something as I'm walking through, narrating about what I'm doing out in the desert. maybe I'll stash some coins out in the desert and take my metal detector and pretend like I'm finding them, like some of these other channels. Look at this gold doubloon that I found out in the desert.
Or look at this 2020 gold maple leaf that I found buried 50 feet down in the dirt. Clearly someone, some time traveler put that here.
This is amazing wine. And you saw it here first, folks. Yeah, right. But I'll continue with the outdoor stuff, and I'll continue with the stacking, and we'll just see where it goes.
Good stuff, man. Well, keep doing what you're doing, buddy. Your channel's successful. It sounds like your business is successful, and you got a nice family going there. So you're on the right path of life, I think.
We're doing great, and I sure appreciate you reaching out to me and helping me kind of introduce myself more to the community and letting people know a little bit more about me. And like I say, I think it's a great thing you're doing, interviewing all these channels. And of course, you're probably going to get the reverse interview here pretty soon.
Well, I look forward to that.
All right. Well,
Alrighty.
Thanks, buddy.
Well, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the time. Bye.